Hey people, welcome back to the channel. This is a story in which Naruto meets Kurama in the land of waves and they have a mutual friendship. In this story Naruto shifts toward his mother's side as a Uzumaki seal master. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. Leave a comment if you want to suggest fanfic. Check the description for credits and support the creator of the story. So let us begin. Chapter 34. Advice. It was a relatively quiet day. The receptionist at the hospital was busy enjoying her tea that she was sipping, but nothing else. The biggest event that had happened in the past day was the admittance of one Hinata Hoiga with multiple knife wounds. However, nothing was too serious and the doctors were able to patch her up with relative ease. The only worry was what would a certain head of the Hoiga clan say when he found his daughter had been admitted to the hospital, that in the orange blur that was quickly rushing towards the hospital. Hinata. Which room? Asked a frantic Naruto, as he practically burst the doors down. The receptionist simply pointed down the hall and told Naruto in room 107. Without saying anything else, Naruto bolted off towards Hinata's room. I apologize for him, said Hiyashi, coming into the hospital lobby only seconds after Naruto arrived. He took off the same direction as the orange blur. He had just returned from some clan business that was out of town and had just gotten the news on Hinata's hospitalization. Unlike Naruto though, he was trained not to freak out like that, at least until he knew what had happened. Following closely behind Hiyashi was Kurenai and the rest of Team 8, including a dreading Kiba. Hinata was sitting in her bed, trying her best to relax. Everything hurt. She had been healed and she would be out of the hospital in a day or two, but still her entire body was even sorer than it had ever been. What was really bothering her was what her father would say, seeing her like this. Hinata. She was sure she could hear Naruto's voice coming from the hallway. And just like that, her blonde boyfriend came tumbling into the room, dragging with him the two Hoiga that had been stationed as guards. Naruto, she squeaked out, happy that he had shown up. She only wished he wasn't seeing her like this. Wrapped around her head was a bandage from where a kunai had just grazed her forehead, leaving a gash. Her entire torso was also bandaged, having received multiple kunai in various places on her body, thankfully nowhere fatal. The guards got to their feet, angry at the orange-clad blonde for barging into Hinata-sama's room. They were prepared to throw him out when they heard voice come from the door. He's fine. Let Naruto go, ordered Hiyashi. Naruto took this time to make his way to Hinata's side as Hiyashi was inspecting the damage. Father. Hinata said as she saw a look of disappointment on her father's face. Should I tell him or should you, Kiba? Asked Kurenai. The rest of Team 8 was standing inside the door. Flashback 3 days ago. Team 8 had been assigned a B-rank mission about 2 weeks ago to locate and track the activity of a few Iwa teams that had been sighted within the Land of Fire. They had finally picked up on a foreign team within their territory. Seeing as this team was composed of 3 genin and a jonin, their mission was simply track and observe. However, missions like these always earned a rank of B or higher as there was a very good chance of enemy confrontation should the tracking team be noticed. The normal result being that the enemy ninjas would pick up on their location and try to lure their pursuers into some kind of trap. Team 8 had been following a team of Iwa Chunin for the past 4 days, not moving, but simply observing. Their actions were not provocative in a fashion, but it never hurt to keep an eye on them. Ahead, one of the Iwa ninja, who was most likely a sensory type, picked up on their tails. The rest of the team nodded as they altered their direction only slightly. An experienced tracker team would have noticed this slight deviation and would have their suspicions. However, Team 8 was still considered young, despite having 3 of the village's best in terms of tracking. They had the skill and the potential to be great at what they did, they just needed the experience. The Iwa team came to a halt and it appeared as if they had set up camp for the night. Shino had a few of his insects monitor the situation with the Iwa ninja as Team 8 also set up their own camp, about a half a mile away from the Iwa. This distance was standard, not close enough to be detected, but close enough to be able to keep an eye on the Iwa ninja, as it was well within Hinata's range for her Byakugan, and the same went for Kiba's nose. Speaking of Kiba, for the past week, he had been distracted due to some of the more recent actions between his teammate and a particular blonde member of his class. For Kiba, it started just a little after the Chunin exams. It was around this time when he felt some strange desire for his lavender-haired teammate. This was actually normal in the Inuzuka clan, as their lifestyle and even their development mimicked canines in a way. And Kiba was starting to reach that age. Of course, being on the same team as Hinata only served to make his familiarity with her stronger, and the canine-like attributes that were present in the Inuzuka clan began to take hold of him, if only slightly. In short, he was beginning to see the young Hoiga heiress as a potential mate in the future. Now, Kiba was fully aware of Hinata's feeling towards Naruto. In fact, just about everyone in the village, except Naruto, was aware of the young Hoiga's feelings. To Kiba, this was fine, as he would work to weaken those feelings and strengthen any feelings she may have towards him. At least this would work so long as Naruto remained completely oblivious to Hinata. That realization changed when he spotted the two of them having lunch together, followed by them running for their lives from a particular purple-haired crazy Chunin exam proctor. What Kiba then saw as they came to a stop really infuriated him. Naruto gave Hinata a quick peck on the lips, in front of Neji even, and Neji made no motion to stop it, although his expression had hinted to Hinata not show those types of affection in public. The following morning when they met for the mission, Kiba could even smell a small hint of Naruto on her. The two of them had then most likely met for breakfast. To Kiba, this was slightly disgusting, as he was now aware that Naruto was aware of Hinata's feelings, and apparently he was responding. He tried to push some thoughts out of his mind for the good of their mission, but those thoughts made their way back when he caught a glimpse of Hinata looking at that picture that Naruto had given her. So tell me, Hinata, what do you see in him? Asked Kiba. He, Shino, and Hinata were sitting around a small fire, and Kiba found this would be the best time to get some answers from Hinata. Huh. Who are you talking about? Asked Hinata. She knew who he was talking about. As a Hoiga, she could read emotions easily, and it wasn't hard to detect a hint of jealousy in Kiba at the moment. You know who I'm talking about, Naruto. What makes him so great? Asked Kiba. It was at this time that Shino received some information from his insects. The Iwa shinobi had begun to move, and they were moving right towards Team 8. These situations were common. The team being followed would either try and shake off their pursuers or eliminate them. Apparently, they were attempting the latter. Kiba, Hinata, they. Shut up, Shino, shouted Kiba. The Iwa ninja would hear this for sure. Kiba, why are you acting like this? Asked Hinata. Her teammate was beginning to scare her as he grew ever more aggressive. You tell me. He's done nothing but ignore you for the past, what? 4 to 5 years. And now all of the sudden, the two of you are practically inseparable. What did you do to him to get you to notice? Did the two of you do something on the trip you took? Did you know? Asked Kiba. Kiba, shouted Hinata. She was trying to stop him. She hadn't even thought about going that far with Naruto, at least not yet, but that didn't mean she wanted people assuming she did. Both of you, please. We need to get out of here, said Shino, trying to interject. I'm not leaving until I get answers, shouted Kiba again. Kiba, please. Shino's right, said Hinata. She had activated her Byakugan the moment Shino warned them, and had noticed a few Iwa shinobi rapidly closing in on them. Well then, answer me, demanded Kiba. His animalistic instincts had already clouded his sense of reason. Both Shino and Hinata knew they had to move soon if they had any chance of getting away before the Iwa shinobi were upon them. Shino and Hinata made the motion to jump into the trees around them and look for some sort of cover. However, before Hinata could move, Kiba grabbed her hand, making sure she didn't get away before she gave him an answer. Unfortunately, this gave the Iwa ninja an opening, and they launched their kunai towards the restrained girl, pelting her with about a dozen knives before Kiba could process that Shino was right and they were in danger. Hinata dropped to the ground as 3 Iwa shinobi surrounded Kiba. This will teach you not to mess with us, one of the ninja declared as the 3 rushed Kiba. Tree binding technique was called out from the forest as the trees of the forest came to life and bound the Iwa shinobi, practically crushing them. When she was certain they had been incapacitated, Kurenai jumped down from the trees and ended the genjutsu, leaving the three Iwa shinobi on the ground, unconscious. She instantly panicked and made her way over to an injured Hinata. There were over a dozen wounds on the girl's body and a rather large gash on her forehead from where a knife just grazed her. Thankfully though, Hinata was still alive. They did, however, need to rush her back to Konoha for immediate treatment before any of these wounds became infected or she lost too much blood. Kiba, what the hell was that? Never mind, we'll talk about it later, snapped Kurenai as she picked up the injured and unconscious Hinata and darted off towards Konoha, a day and a half away. Team 8 pushed through the night, stopping only to try and bandage up Hinata. Shino's insects did prove effective in slowing the bleeding, but she would need medical treatment fast if she was going to survive. Team 8 arrived in Konoha in time to get Hinata the required treatment before she bled out too much. End flashback. Kiba tried his best to shrink out of sight as Kurenai finished her explanation. However, Kiba wasn't going to escape Hiashi, who had his Byakugan active. Naruto was also preparing to kick Kiba's ass, however he himself was being restrained by Hinata. Before Kiba could think what he was going to say, he felt a Juken strike to his stomach from Hiashi, slamming him back into the wall. Father! Shouted Hinata, shocked at her father's unusual action. She had never seen him like this before. Please, stop. Hiashi stopped the next strike that was aimed at Kiba. This was just like Hinata. Sometimes he felt like she forgave people too quick and easily. Hiashi turned to Kurenai, who was also a little shocked by Hiashi's behavior. I expect you'll handle this. Kurenai nodded. Don't worry. Kiba hasn't even tasted pain yet. Kiba gulped. Despite Kurenai's kind and carefree appearance, she could be a real slave driver and they had learned it the hard way. It was at this time that one of the people who would give her the most benefit entered the room. Ah, Neji, perfect timing. Neji turned and bowed to Kurenai and his uncle and then turned to see if Hinata was alright, practically having to pry Naruto away. Hiashi had considered it, but at least it showed that Naruto cared for his daughter. What do you mean by perfect timing? Kurenai-sensei. Well, I'm looking for a suitable punishment for Kiba here. So tell me, what is the most painful, most strenuous workout that guy has ever given you? And I mean the worst one you've had. You know, the ones where you couldn't even move afterwards because it felt as if 1,000 knives have been driven into every nerve of your body. Asked Kurenai. Neji got a devious smile on his face. Kiba was not going to like this. Before leaving the room, Hiashi turned to Kiba. For now, I do not want you anywhere near my daughter except for when official shinobi business calls for it. Do I make myself clear? Kiba gulped at Hiashi's warning. Hey billboard brow. Ino shouted, approaching Sakura in the middle of Konoha. What do you want Ino pig? Snorted Sakura in protest to Ino's billboard brow comment. The two butted heads for a moment, but the reason why Ino had sought out Sakura in the first place came to her. I just got back from a mission, but guess what I found out prior to leaving, said Ino. Sakura listened in, knowing that Ino was probably the biggest gossip queen in Konoha. No, gasped Sakura, not believing what Ino was saying. Are you sure this was Naruto? Yeah, I mean who else has blonde hair and wears a bright orange jumpsuit that can be seen from Kumogakure, said Ino. Sakura admitted Ino had a point there. But are you sure they are together? Asked Sakura. I mean I saw them kiss and Naruto mentioned that he would take her out on a date. It must be just recently that they started going out, said Ino. I even heard Naruto say something about taking her on a fist date, which must mean that they've only started seeing each other. Suddenly, it came to Sakura. Ino, we have to help them, she said. What? Why? Responded Ino. This is Naruto we are talking about. Where do you think he would take Hinata on a first date? Said Sakura. The answer came to Ino almost instantly, ramen. You're right. It's our responsibility to make sure the two of them stay together. That way, Naruto won't get in the way of me going out with Sasuke, declared Ino. What do you mean you going out with Sasuke? He's obviously going to go out with me, Ino pig, retorted Sakura. Bah, who would want to go out with you and that gigantic forehead, argued Ino. Ino pig. Billboard brow. A few more minutes of the two going at each other's neck and they finally came to an agreement. They would help Naruto to ensure that he was with Hinata. They did this for two reasons. One was because Naruto had a habit of getting in people's way when it came to Sasuke back in the academy. If he had Hinata, chances were he wouldn't be in the way as much. The other one was to eliminate any sort of competition the Hyuga heiress may put up when it came to getting Sasuke's heart. They didn't know how strong her feelings were for Sasuke, but from what they remember, every girl was gaga over Sasuke in the academy, except for Hinata who was always too shy. But I mean this was Sasuke, she had to have feelings for their Sasuke. They couldn't think of any girl who didn't have feelings, so that meant that she had to have feelings for Sasuke, or so they assumed. Then again, the only one Hinata would ever shy away from and even give a hint of liking was Naruto. No, they couldn't take any chances. If she did have feelings for their Sasuke, this was a perfect opportunity to eliminate the competition. Success, failure, success, failure. Lee sighed as the last petal he has plucking off a flower resulted in failure. He had been doing this for hours. 4 weeks, he had been thinking on Tsunade's diagnosis. After all the effort his team had gone through to cheer him up over the past months, it still came down to a 50-50 chance with an operation that was so difficult that only the very best medic could perform it. If the operation failed, he would die. If it succeeded, there was still only a chance that he would be able to return to being a shinoi. Lee looked down into the river to watch as the most recent failure floated off on the river. He looked down at the sad face looking back at him and suddenly saw 2 more faces join him. Neji. Tenten. Lee asked as his 2 teammates joined him. Hey Lee, responded Tenten. How were your missions? Lee asked, becoming slightly more depressed that his teammates were carrying on while he was stuck in the village. They were, alright, responded Tenten. They weren't the same without you though, added Neji, trying to cheer Lee up. Lee, on my mission, I ran into that Gaara that you fought in the exams. G. Gaara, responded Lee. Did you fight him? Neji shook his head. No. This mission was a joint mission where we were allies. Oh, I see, said Lee. But, I did get a chance to talk to him, and he is sorry that you ended up like this, said Neji. He even said that he would want to face a strong opponent like you again. He said I was strong? Asked a surprised Lee. Yes. He said you were the first person to ever push him like that. You were the first person to ever hit him. He told me he desires to face you again, Neji said. He's not the only one. Huh. Who else wants to fight me? Asked Lee. I do, stated Neji. I apologize for everything I've said to you in the past. You're strong and I want to face you in combat when you get the surgery and recover. But the surgery, what if it fails? Said Lee. Neji turned to Lee and Lee saw something in Neji's eyes that he thought he would never see from his fate-obsessed teammate, the flames of youth. That is not your fate, Lee. Sure, this is something you have to face, but I know what your fate is. Nej, then what is my fate? Replied Lee. Your fate is to become a splendid ninja. It is our fate to meet each other one day in the area and fight each other with all our heart, said Neji. Neji's right, Lee. This isn't you. You're strong, you won't let anything keep you down. I know if you go into the surgery with the same attitude you've gone into everything else, you'll come back as good as new, said Tenten. Neji, Tenten, was all Lee could say, in disbelief at what his teammates were saying. Lee, a voice came from behind, one that Lee knew all too well. Guy-sensei, said Lee, turning around. Lee, listen to your team. Get the surgery. You won't be as good as new, you'll be better, having come out stronger from this obstacle, said Guy. Let the flames of youth guide you and you'll come out just fine. Guy-sensei. Lee. If by a 1 in 1,000, no a 1 in a million chance you die, then I will die with you. It has been my dream to mold you into a splendid ninja and I will never give up on that. You were meant to be a splendid ninja and you shall be one, said Guy. Guy-sensei. Lee began to tear up a little. Guy-sensei. Lee. The two embraced on the bridge to the backdrop of an ocean sunset. Guy looked up at the 2 remaining members of Team Guy. Neji. Fine, but just this once, Neji said to himself as Guy started to stare him into submission. Guy-sensei. Lee. Tenten, shouted Lee. Tenten smiled. Lee. Guy-sensei. The sunset brightened as the 2 remaining members of Team Guy finally joined in on the group hug. Well, Tenten did anyways while Neji just put a hand on Lee's shoulder. So you're absolutely sure about this, Lee? Yes, Hokage-sama. I have never been surer in my life. To be a splendid ninja, That is my dream and it is something I will not give up on, declared Lee. Tsunade crossed her hands underneath her chin and thought for a moment. Alright, you know the risk so. No. I absolutely refuse to die until my dream has been realized, said Lee. This operation will be a success. If it is not, then I will. No. There will be no failure here. You are the best in the world and the operation will be an absolute success. Tsunade smiled as Lee suddenly took on an image of Naruto, Nawaki, and Dan. Although their dreams weren't the same, Lee's resolve was just as strong. Very well. Shizune. Tsunade called in Shizune. Yes, Tsunade-sama, said Shizune, entering the office. Take Lee to the hospital and get him all checked in, said Tsunade. Lee, we will use tomorrow to go through all the preparations and then we will do the surgery the following day. Is that fine? Yes, Hokuge-sama. Don't worry Lee, Tsunade-sama will have you doing laps around the village on your fingers in no time, said Tenten. This actually made Lee more excited for some reason. Unfortunately it was getting late and Naruto couldn't spend any more time in the hospital with Hinata, at least not unless he wanted to stay himself after Tsunade beat him up, trying to get him to leave. I guess I'll see you tomorrow Hinata, said Naruto, bending over to give her a quick kiss. Oh, how long do you have to stay in here? The doctors say I'll be able to leave after 3 more nights in here, replied Hinata. Great, I'll take you on a real date when you get out of here. How about on Saturday, 4 days from now? Asked Naruto. He's really asking me out on a date. Inside her head, Hinata squealed at her fortune. That would be wonderful. Naruto smiled as he left the hospital, only to bump into 2 girls that were going to make him wish he took Tsunade up on her offer. So Naruto, where are you taking her? Asked Ino, putting one arm around the blonde's shoulder. Yeah, tell us Naruto, said Sakura, joining Naruto on the other side. Huh. What are you two talking about? Asked a now confused Naruto. You know, I had imagined it would have taken you years to realize her feelings towards, said Ino. No, I doubt he would have ever noticed, interrupted Sakura. Enough, shouted Naruto, who was growing increasingly irritated by the 2 girls pestering. That shut Sakura and Ino up for a moment to say something. What the hell are the 2 of you talking about? What do you mean? We're talking about you and Hinata. I saw the 2 of you together and kissing the other day, said Ino. Naruto sighed in defeat. So have you asked her out yet? Asked Sakura. Yes. For your information, we are going when she gets out of the hospital, said Naruto. He spent the next few minutes explaining why she was in the hospital and, well let's just say Kurenai's guy level workout was no longer the only thing Kiba had to worry about now. So, where are you taking her? Asked Ino, again. Well, said Naruto, trying to come up with some sort of excuse that would satisfy the 2 pests. Sakura and Ino instantly saw that he had absolutely no idea what he was doing. Come on, walk with us, said Sakura as she and Ino practically dragged Naruto along with them. Okay, so listen closely. This is your first date and Hinata really likes you, so you've gotta do something special. I know, said Naruto before he was interrupted. There are a few do's and don'ts for dating, said Ino. First, you must treat her like an absolute gentleman. Not only is she the heiress to a big clan in Konoha, but, speaking of which, how the hell did the 2 of you end up together? Naruto sighed. He definitely should have taken Tsunade up on her offer and gotten himself beat up, just so he could spend a night in the hospital. He explained the details regarding that night to Ino and Sakura, minus the Kyuubi part, and the 2 girls actually saw it as pretty romantic, minus the bone-crunching splat and village-shaking tremor that followed due to Tsunade. They even pictured themselves coming to Sasuke's aid, following Sasuke falling right into their arms. Anyways, you must be a complete gentleman, restated Sakura. And make sure you clean up before going. You kind of do smell a bit. Also, you're going to need to wear something other than that obnoxiously bright orange jumpsuit, said Ino. What's wrong with orange? Asked Naruto, slightly afraid now. Everything. Both Ino and Sakura shouted in unison as a chibi Naruto shrunk and Ino and Sakura's head grew as if they were using Iruka's big head jutsu. But what am I supposed to wear? Asked Naruto. Ino and Sakura sighed. He's so clueless, isn't he? They said in unison. Well, first where are you taking her? Oh and that leads me to the most important piece of advice, said Ino. Absolutely no ramen. But what's wrong with ramen? Asked Naruto, trying to defend his favorite food. It may be fine for an occasional lunch date, but you can't take her there for your first date, said Sakura. So where are you taking her? Well, I kind of don't know yet. It's not like there are a lot of places I can go, said Naruto. Well, you have to have some money. After all, you've been doing non-stop missions for the past week, said Sakura. No, it's not money that's the problem. In fact, I've got plenty from my trip with Ero Sennin to bring back Tsunade Bachan, said Naruto. It's just I don't know any places in Konoha, besides Ichiraku, that will actually serve me. Huh. Why wouldn't they serve you? Asked Ino. Don't bother with that, Ino, said Sakura. She knew why, but unfortunately she couldn't tell Ino. Anyways, we'll help you find a place to eat. Don't worry about it. The trio made their way around the village, dodging flying pots and pans at nearly every nice restaurant they could think of. Ino still couldn't get her arms wrapped around why Naruto was so hated. Sure, he was a troublemaker in the past, but he's begun to change and she couldn't remember any of his pranks being that bad. There was only one more restaurant that they could think of and it was probably the nicest restaurant in Konoha, the Flaming Leaf Inn. Ino and Sakura pushed Naruto inside although Naruto protested that this was just going to end like every other restaurant, with a pot of boiling sauce or a pan of fried oil being tossed at him. Hello, how may I help you? Said the restaurant manager as she turned to greet them. Oh, I'm sorry, but our restaurant has a particular dress code and I'm afraid you dressed properly. No, we're just here to get our friend and his date a reservation if that's okay, said Ino. The manager looked over at who, he, was and instantly spotted Naruto. Naruto was bracing himself for the pan of boiling oil but was surprised when all he got was, we can certainly do that. What time were you thinking of, sir? Naruto stood there dumbfounded. You're not going to hurt me. Or throw me out with pots and pans. Not to mention he had never been referred to as, sir, before. The manager laughed. Why would I do that to the person who saved me from when the sound ninja attacked? Instantly, Naruto knew why the manager had looked familiar. She was the woman within that group that he, Sasuke, and Sakura saved from the sound ninja during the invasion. She was the one who denied the demon brat comment Naruto had made when they jumped in the way to deflect the kunai that were heading directly towards her head. It appears as if she had a change of heart from that event, realizing that he wasn't the demon, or at least he wasn't as bad as she initially thought. Oh, now I remember, exclaimed Naruto. The manager just smiled, although she was slightly irritated. Well anyway, what time were you thinking? Asked the manager. Well, sometime Saturday I guess, replied Naruto. Excuse him, this is kind of the first time he's had to deal with stuff like this, interjected Sakura. Make it for as close to 7 p.m. on Saturday as you can please. The manager took a look at the list of reservations. The only spot I have left is at 6:45. You're lucky you got here before it was taken. Great, thank you very much, said Naruto. My name's Kamiri Rekinu and my husband, Satonora, is the head chef here, Kamiri said as her husband came out of the kitchen. A few months ago, he would have in fact thrown a pan of burning grease at Naruto, but after hearing how his wife's life was saved at the hands of the former demon child, he decided to give the blonde a chance. Hello Uzumaki-san, the chef said joining his wife's side. Satonora was a rather large man, probably in his late 40s or early 50s. He still had a full head of hair tied back in a ponytail, but it was easy to see that his hair was turning gray. Kamiri looked younger than her husband although not by much. She was probably in her late 30s at the youngest. She had a slim face and brown hair that she had tied in a ponytail that went down just below her shoulders. It looks like you and a date will be joining us on Saturday evening. I promise you that everything will be exceptional for the both of you. I don't suppose either of these two fine young ladies is your date. Ino and Sakura were slightly insulted by that comment. Naruto just put his hand behind his head and laughed a little. No. My date is actually Hinata Hoiga. This took the restaurant owners by surprise. They had not expected Naruto to manage a date with a Hoiga, let alone the clan heiress. Wow, aiming high aren't we? Joked Satonora. Naruto was slightly taken back but realized the man was simply joking. He seemed rather polite and respectable and he even liked to lighten things up a little. I'm sorry to say that we must get back to work, said Kamiri. However, here is a sample menu and our dress guidelines and we hope to see you Saturday evening. Well, that went way better than expected, commented Ino. Sakura nodded, but Naruto was still as confused as he was when he realized a pan was not aimed for his face the moment he walked in. So, I've always wondered what they have. Let's take a look at that menu. Naruto, are you sure you have this much money? Asked Sakura. The restaurant was indeed expensive and Sakura estimated that it would cost both of them around 4,000-5,000 ryo to eat there. Well, yeah, I've got plenty, said Naruto. I won just over 300,000 ryo from when Tsunade Bachan taught me to play poker. Quote. Sakura and Ino were speechless. The blonde knucklehead had a small fortune, at least for a 12-year-old genin, stashed away. Anyways, what are you going to do about the dress code? It says here you need a jacket, said Sakura. But I have a jacket, said Naruto, pointing at the orange coat that was part of his jumpsuit. He then felt two fists converge on the top of his head. No orange, yelled Sakura and Ino in unison. By jacket, they mean suit. You need a suit jacket, dress slacks, shirt and tie, and a pair of nice dress shoes, explained Ino. But I don't have any of those, said Naruto, rubbing the bump on his head. Geez, you are hopeless, replied Sakura. Just go suit shopping in the next few days. I don't know too much about guys' formal wear, so I don't think we are going to be too much help. Alright, hey, I'll go ask Iruka-sensei. I'm sure he'll know what to do, said Naruto. Ino and Sakura nodded. Iruka wasn't a bad choice and they were both aware that Naruto and Iruka-sensei shared a special bond. Surely he would be able to steer Naruto in the right direction. Now, just remember everything we told you, and stop by my family's shop for flowers before you pick her up, said Ino. I know. I was planning on that. I'm not that hopeless, you know, exclaimed Naruto as his two pests finally left him alone. Iruka had just finished upgrading papers for the day when a knock was heard on the classroom door. He called out for the person to come in and much to his pleasant surprise, it was Naruto. Hey Iruka-sensei. I kind of wanted to ask for your help on something, said Naruto. Oh. And what is that? History. Ninjutsu. Genjutsu? Asked Iruka. No, I kind of have a date this weekend and I need some help suit shopping, said Naruto. Suit shopping. Iruka never thought he would see the day where Naruto would wear a formal suit. Oh, and you say you have a date. With whom may I ask? Silently, Iruka was pleading that it was with Hinata. He knew Naruto wasn't an idiot, but if Naruto still wasn't seeing the young Hyuga's feelings towards him, then it was not helping his case. Well, it's with Hinata, said Naruto, letting out a slight laugh. Iruka silently praised Kami that Naruto had finally noticed Hinata. Well, it's about time, said Iruka. She's been looking at you for at least the past 4 or 5 years. Please don't remind me, Iruka-sensei, said Naruto. Again, Iruka let out a slight laugh. Okay, just give me a few minutes to finish up here and I'll help you. Why don't you go out to the yard? I think Konohamaru is there practicing with shuriken. Maybe you can give him a few pointers. Naruto proceeded out to the yard and there was Konohamaru, unfortunately with Ebisu, practicing his shuriken throwing. Hey boss, shouted Konohamaru, noticing Naruto. Hey Konohamaru, shuriken practice huh? Responded Naruto. Yep, replied Konohamaru. Hey boss, you've been a ninja for a few months now. You've gotta know a cool jutsu or two, can you show me? Naruto took this as a time to show off. Yeah, and actually, I've got just the jutsu for you. Stand back. Naruto pulled 2 shuriken out of his holster and aimed for the training post. He threw them and made a quick seal. Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu. Suddenly, the 2 shuriken became 100 and the post was bombarded with a shower of metal. Konohamaru's eyes lit up and Ebisu was cursing Naruto. That was amazing boss, you know Grandpa's technique, shouted Konohamaru. Hey, can you teach it to me? Naruto laughed at the young ninja to be. I could, but you HVE to know the shadow clone juts. Naruto was instantly shut up by Ebisu. Honorable grandson, while those jutsu certainly are impressive, they require one to hone the basics to perfection. After all, no one is taught the shadow clone jutsu while they're in the academy. In fact, ninja are not taught it until they are jonin, explained Ebisu. I knew the shadow clone jutsu before I graduated, said Naruto. Shut it you, said Ebisu. It was too late and the damage had been done. Wow. Really? Can you please teach me boss? Begged Konohamaru. Yeah, I'll teach you one of these days, I promise, said Naruto, receiving a death glare from Ebisu. However, before Ebisu could start strangling the blonde, Ruruka exited the building and he and Naruto left to go find Naruto a suit. The afternoon was much like the previous day when Naruto went looking for restaurants. Many of the shops would toss him out and refuse to sell, causing Ruruka to become increasingly irritated at the shopkeepers. It wasn't until the sixth shop where they found a rather nice suit for Naruto that Ruruka finally flipped and persuaded the shopkeeper that they should sell to Naruto. Ino and Sakura were going to have a fit. They had told him no orange, but he managed to squeak in a few streaks of orange on his tie. The suit itself was solid black and made from a fairly good quality of fabric. The shirt was a patterned gray that seemed like it had a slight hint of blue to it. The tie is what brought out the blue. It was primarily an orange tie with a series of blue swirls working their way through the tie. These swirls helped to accent the slight hint of blue that was in Naruto's shirt. Looking at his former student, Ruruka stood in disbelief. He never imagined the day when Naruto would actually be wearing a formal suit. It nearly brought tears to his eye. Now all Naruto really had to do at the moment was to let Hinata know of his plans. Hiyashi stared wide-eyed at Naruto when he found out where exactly Naruto had managed to get reservations at. The Flaming Leaf Inn was probably the highest-scale restaurant in the entire village. Reservations at that place were nearly impossible to get unless you knew someone, and it was normal to have to reserve at least a month in advance. Not to mention, Hiyashi knew Naruto was not welcomed in almost every restaurant. Tell me Naruto, how did you manage to get reservations at the most prestigious restaurant in the village in only 3 days in advance? Said Hiyashi, beginning his interrogation. Well, apparently I saved the owners during the invasion and this is their way of thanking me, explained Naruto. I don't really know. It was really nice of them. Out of the other dozen restaurants we went to I got pans thrown at me, but this one, well they gave me a reservation and rather warmly too. It made sense that the owners had a change of heart after something like that. Alright, but now you do realize what you're getting into, don't you? There is a dress code, do you have the proper attire? Asked Hiyashi. Yeah, Ruruka-sensei took me suit shopping yesterday. It was almost as bad as the restaurant searching, said Naruto as he pulled a needle out of his shoulder. He must have missed it when he was deneedling himself. But then Ruruka-sensei used his big head jutsu and one of the shopkeepers sold me this suit. Naruto handed Hiyashi the suit that he had in his bags. Hiyashi was actually impressed. Good quality. I just hope you don't grow out of it too soon, said Hiyashi. Now, you do realize that this restaurant is one of the more expensive places. The last thing you want is to not be able to pay the bill. Don't worry about that. I have a couple 100,000 ryo in the bank from when Tsunade Bachan. Hiyashi's eye twitched upon hearing Naruto refer to the Hokage like this. Taught me to play poker, explained Naruto. I'm going to have a talk with sensei. Gambling is one of the last things I wanted Hinata exposed to during the trip, thought Hiyashi. Fair enough. It seems like you are capable of taking Hinata there. Now, about manners, I expect you to act like a proper gentleman around Hinata. Naruto gulped. In truth, he had no idea what sort of manners Hiyashi was talking about. I mean, he could act calm and decent if needed, but he wasn't sure if that would be enough for this man. Don't worry uncle, I'll make sure Naruto knows how to act, said Neji, stepping into the room just in time to save Naruto. Hiyashi nodded. Very well. Now if that is everything, you may stop by and pick Hinata up at 6:15 on Saturday. Good day, Naruto. Hiyashi took his leave, leaving Naruto with Neji and Hinata, who was still in disbelief that Naruto had managed to pull out all the stops for their first date, not to mention that she was finally going on a date with Naruto. Thoughts were racing through her head. What would she wear? How would the date go? Would she disappoint Naruto? Naruto, why don't we head to my house and I can teach you everything you'll need to know so that you do not embarrass Hinata, said Neji. What? I would never do that to her, objected Naruto. I know you would never do it intentionally, but this restaurant requires special behavior. You need to be at your very best as there will most likely be other important figures there, said Neji. Naruto thought for a moment. Alright, thank you Neji, said Neji. No need to thank me. In truth, I am doing this for Hinata-sama. She deserves the very best and I want to make sure you can be the very best for her, said Neji. Don't you worry. I will never let Hinata down. Datbeo, declared Naruto. Neji gave a slight smile to Naruto. Very well. Oh, and I believe Lee has gotten out of surgery. He should be waking up around now. Would you like to see him? Asked Neji. Really? I knew Bachan could do it. Shouted Naruto as the two made their way to Lee's room. Excuse me nurse, is it alright to visit Lee? Neji asked the nurse exiting his room. She thought for a moment and then said, he's still a little groggy from the anesthesia, but I can allow you to stop in for a few minutes. Please be quick. Neji bowed and the two-leaf genin entered Lee's room. Nehi, Naturo, wa art ye doin her? Said a drugged-up Lee. Naruto couldn't help but let out a slight laugh. Just came to say hello, Lee. How are you doing? Asked Neji. He'll be just fine. The surgery went better than I had initially thought and he may even be back to training in the next month or so, depending on how therapy went, said Tsunade, stepping into the room. Bachan, shouted Naruto. Can the Bachan crap brat? I'm not that old, replied Tsunade. Thank you for seeing to my teammate and friend like that, Tsunade-sama, said Neji, giving Tsunade a bow. It wasn't me. Lee's something else. It's like he practically forced the surgery to be an absolute success, said Tsunade. She had to admit that Lee's resolve was rivaled only by Naruto's, if not greater. Nehi, Naruho, I wa ta fi, said Lee, trying to get out of bed. Stay. Ordered Tsunade, scaring Lee back into the bed. You're still in no condition to fight, let alone train. You've got at least a month or two of therapy ahead of you before I'm even going to let you within a mile of Guy. Don't worry Lee, I'll fight you as soon as you're ready, I promise, said Naruto, giving Lee the nice guy pose. As will I and I look forward to it, said Neji. After failing to bring back Tsunade to heal his arms and practically being beat to a pulp in the process, Orochimaru decided to take on a new body. It was been nearly 2 weeks since then and Orochimaru has finally adjusted to the new body. How is that new body suiting you, Orochimaru-sama? Asked Kabuto. It's fine. Different than what I expected, but it will do at least until I get my hands on my next body, said Orochimaru. You're talking about Sasuke Uchiha, aren't you? Asked Kabuto. Yes. He may have avoided me in the forest of death, however, that still doesn't mean I won't get his precious Sharingan, hissed Orochimaru. Kabuto, it's almost time, get them ready. It's time I finally bring Sasuke here and show him what it is that I can offer him. And then, he will be mine, after I help him mature a bit further. Yes Orochimaru-sama. We won't fail you, said Kabuto, quickly bowing to Orochimaru before leaving. Chapter 35. First date 5 a.m., a time when most of Konoha was still asleep or just starting to stir. Little did they know they were in for a rude awakening by various cries that could be heard all across the village. Goj. Kiba's cries of pain and torment were just beginning as Kurenai began his hell punishment for putting a certain Hoiga in the hospital with his recklessness. Yash. The cries of youth shout bright this morning, called out Guy from the other end of the village. Neji, Tenten. Hurry, we must kindle our flames of youth so that they may burn brightly. At the Hoiga compound, a few Hoiga watched as Neji reluctantly dragged himself out of the compound. For some reason, Guy had been pushing them even harder ever since Lee got the surgery. Perhaps it was to inspire Lee. Unfortunately, Neji only saw it as another was for his sensei to get under his skin. Guy-sensei. I will be there in just a minute too. Please wait for me, shouted Lee from the hospital as a crash followed by a flat line beep was heard from Lee accidentally disconnecting his heart monitor. Bed. Now. Shouted Tsunade, coming to Lee's attempted escape. By 5:10, the entire village had been awakened by the constant screaming from Kiba, Guy, and Lee. At least everyone except the Naras. For some reason, they were still asleep and the village was quickly becoming envious of them. By 6 o'clock in the morning, the village was already stirring and business was running as usual, all thanks to the wake-up call from a particular Inuzuka. Speaking of said Inuzuka, He had just finished up with the 50 laps around the village that Kurenai had assigned him to do, and his legs felt like someone had taken their claws and shredded the muscles in his legs to pieces, 50 times over. Get up. Kurenai ordered Kiba, who was trying to catch his breath in the few seconds he had after completing the 50th lap. At this time, Neji and Tenten came running past Kiba. Poor puppy. Is that all you can take? Taunted Tenten. Neji, how many more laps do we have? I honestly lost count after 100 inches, replied Neji. Kiba couldn't believe it. 100 laps and they were barely breaking a sweat. What the hell has Guy been doing to his team? Kiba struggled to his feet, only for Kurenai to shove him back into the ground. I said, get up, she ordered. Kiba struggled to his feet again, only for Kurenai to throw him back again. How can I get up if you won't let me? Demanded Kiba as he grew more irritated with each attempt. I don't know, why don't you ask Hinata? Oh wait, you didn't let her get away when there were a dozen kunai sailing towards her. Maybe I should strap one to the bottom of my boot and see how you like it. Kiba cringed and instantly bolted to his feet and moved away from Kurenai. He had never seen her like this, and he was not willing to see just how far she would go. Good, now follow me, she ordered. Kiba groaned but did as he told. Why are we here? Asked Kiba as the two came to the edge of a place Kiba didn't want to see in a long time, the Forest of Death. Strip. But you can leave your shorts on, Kurenai ordered. What? Why should I do that, and why the hell should I take my clothes off? Argued Kiba. Just do it. Or would you rather I turn your punishment over to Hiyashi? Said Kurenai. Kiba gulped. Despite the hell he was being put through with Kurenai, Hiyashi was the last person he wanted to see. Ah, perfect timing, Anko. Kiba looked up to see another person he was really wishing he didn't see, Anko. And for some reason she was carrying a vest made completely out of raw steaks. Put this on, ordered Kurenai. Kiba just did as he was told. The feel of raw meat against his skin was weird, and he was still trying to contemplate what Kurenai was doing at the Forest of Death. Wait, no, she can't mean to do that, thought Kiba as something came to mind. Looks like you've figured it out, puppy, said Anko with a very evil grin on her face. I'm sorry to say, Kiba, that I will not be able to oversee your punishment anymore today. It would be unfair to Shino and Hinata if you took up all my time. However, I am leaving you in the very capable hands of Anko here, said Kurenai before she took off to go meet with the rest of her team. Shit. Anko was one of the few people he would have wanted to be left with. In truth, he would rather take Hiyashi over Anko. While it was hell, he could handle Kurenai, but Anko, she was just pure insane. Alright, puppy, you've got until 8 p.m. this evening. Get going, ordered Anko. What the hell am I supposed to do? Asked a confused Kiba. Why isn't it obvious? Asked Anko, getting a very dark and sinister look on her face. Survive. Inside the forest here, there are all kinds of beasts and creatures who will find you as a tasty little treat. You are to survive until 8 o'clock tonight. Oh, and I suggest you don't stop running. Anko threw Kiba into the forest before locking the gate on him. Before he knew it, there were countless sets of eyes staring at him from the forest, all of them with a lustful glare at him as they sized up their next meal. Kiba took off running, his legs still burning hotter than the sun as he began the fight for his very life. Anko couldn't help but laugh at the puppy's misfortune. Even though she was going to be stuck here all day, at least she had some form of entertainment in a bag full of dango. Wyog was heard all across the village. Ah, music to my ears, said Kurama, taking in Kiba's screams of pure terror and agony. Kakashi had assembled his team for a training session that they were long due. It was a few weeks late, but Kakashi had finally got Sakura and Sasuke the next set of jutsu that he had promised them. Sasuke's was a lightning-style jutsu entitled Raiden, Thunder Roar. This was a low B rank technique that could be used at mid-range. It sent a blast of electricity, shaped like a lion's head, at the target, giving them a severe shock and temporarily paralyzing them or worse. Sakura's was slightly different than a normal jutsu scroll. Kakashi had been taking notes and realized that Sakura was similar to his old teammate, Rin. Rin was a medical ninja, and Kakashi could easily see that Sakura had the potential to become a top-grade medical ninja. All she needed was a push, and he was hoping the book on basic medical ninjutsu would start to pique her interests in the field of medical ninjutsu. Hey Kakashi-sensei, I don't suppose it would be alright if I take off early, said Naruto. It was getting close to 5 o'clock and he was supposed to pick Hinata up in just over an hour. And why do you want to do that, Naruto? Got a hot date or something? Replied Kakashi, making an upside down U with his one eye. Replied Naruto, turning a little red. If he was going to let Naruto go, at the very least, Kakashi would have some fun first. So who is she, Naruto? Asked Kakashi. Oh come on Kakashi-sensei, just let him go already. Tonight's important, said Sakura, trying to help Naruto. The sooner she could solidify Naruto and Hinata's relationship, the sooner she could work on herself and Sasuke. After all, she wouldn't have a certain blonde teammate constantly asking her out anymore. The Dobi has a date, thought Sasuke, slightly surprised. Yeah Kakashi-sensei, tonight's really important. I need to go clean up and everything, said Naruto. Who would have thought it would take a certain lavender-haired girl to get you to clean up, said Kakashi. Alright, you're all free to go. Let's meet here tomorrow at the usual time. 4. Team 7, the usual time was 9 a.m., but the three of them quickly learned that they had until at least 11 before Kakashi would show. Naruto dashed off, going to prepare himself for the night he had planned, growing ever more nervous as the time passed. Sasuke, well, seeing as Naruto is busy tonight, do you want to do anything? Sakura asked, trying to get her own date for tonight. Don't you have anything better to do? If you have time to bother me, then you certainly have time to train. I don't have time to waste on some hindrance, replied Sasuke, crushing Sakura's hopes. Sasuke. Is that really what you think? I just hold you back, said Sakura as a few tears came to her eyes. Was all Sasuke said as he took off towards a separate training ground of his own. That Dobi has a date. Who would actually go out with him? Thought Sasuke as he halted halfway to the training ground he had staked out. He couldn't get the fact that Naruto of all people had a date tonight. Perhaps he would do a different type of training today as he altered his course back to the village. Sakura was busy dragging her feet through the village, depressed that she had been rejected yet again. Sakura found herself making her way towards Ino's flower shop. Despite her slight depression, she had agreed to meet with Ino so that they could wish Naruto the best of luck with his date. In other words, they were going to spy on him. Sensei, you won't believe it, but Naruto has a date tonight, said Kakashi. He was at the place where he usually went when he needed to talk about things on his mind, the Hero's Stone. It was here that he would talk to many of his deceased comrades and friends, such as his former teammates Obito and Rin. However, his attention was directed towards that of his sensei, the Yondaime Hokage. The surprising part is that his date is with the daughter of your teammate. That's right, Naruto somehow managed a date with the heiress of the Hyuga clan, Kakashi said. He took a deep breath. I wish you were here. I'm sure Naruto would have liked to have you see him off on a night like this. Don't worry though, I'll make sure he doesn't mess this one up. I'll see you later, sensei. Naruto took a deep breath as he exited the shower. He had made sure to scrub himself thoroughly with soap practically 3 times. He was becoming increasingly nervous as time passed. In truth, this was the first date he had ever had. In fact, this was the first true romantic event that had ever happened that he ever had time to think about. The kiss between him and Hinata a few weeks ago had just kind of happened. Tonight was different. He had plenty of time to think about tonight, and the more he did, the worse his nerves got. Finally, after a 5th scrub, he ran out of soap and proceeded to change into the suit that Iruka-sensei had helped him pick out. Something seemed off and he spent the next 10 minutes fiddling with the slightest detail on the suit and another 10 minutes fiddling with the tie. Iruka had practically beat into him how to tie a tie and Naruto had done it perfectly, although it still didn't seem right. Looking over at the clock, he realized that he had to go. It was getting close to 6 o'clock and he still had to pick up flowers from Ino's shop before proceeding to pick up Hinata. Kit, stop it. You look just fine. Just don't act like too much of an idiot and you'll be fine, reassured Kurama, trying to get Naruto to stop worrying. Even Kurama was pulling for Naruto. One reason was that he actually wanted to see the kid happy. Second was the vixen with whom Naruto was supposed to be going out with. For some reason, despite being a 1,000-year-old demon who's been bitter after being imprisoned 100 years ago, he actually liked Hinata. perhaps it was how she treated Naruto after knowing about his little secret all these years, or perhaps it was her talent in the kitchen. Geez, I've never been this nervous before. I'd almost rather stare down Orochimaru back in the forest of death, responded Naruto. Hey, did you ever have vixen of your own? Kurama was silent for a moment. I don't want to talk about that kit, the fox replied. Anyways, you should get going. Kurama's wasn't filled with much excitement. In fact, he sounded rather remorseful when responding to Naruto's question. Naruto, however, looked over at the clock and began freaking out. He only had 15 minutes to get to Ino's shop and over to Hinata's house. Gah, where is that baka? Said Ino as she and Sakura were waiting for Naruto to stop by before his date. They had hoped Naruto would stop by with a few minutes before he was supposed to meet up so they could check him over, but it was getting surprisingly close to the 6:15 time when Naruto was supposed to pick up Hinata. Suddenly, Naruto came bursting into the shop, panting just a little. There you are, what the hell is that? Shouted Sakura, pointing at Naruto's tie. I said no orange, you baka. Just drop it, Sakura, it's too late to fix it now. We are just going to have to hope the orange tie doesn't stick out too much, sighed Ino. She then proceeded to shove a bouquet of flowers in Naruto's hands. Here, you've got purple lilacs as the center flower, these symbolize first love. Then you have a ring of orchids surrounding them, which will tell her that you think she's beautiful. Finally, there are a few white roses. In every bouquet, you want roses, but you have to be careful which ones you use. Roses are a symbol for love, but if you give her red ones, then that could tell her you want more than just a nice date. These white ones symbolize purity as well, which should tell her that you want to love her, but you want to be honest and not try to push things. The entire explanation simply went in one ear and out the other as Ino pushed him out the shop with the flowers in his hand. Alright Sakura, you ready for this? Asked Ino. Sakura smiled and grabbed a camera. This was going to be fun. Not to mention, this was one of the first times in the past few years the two of them were not fighting over Sasuke. It felt nice being more of a friend with Ino than a rival. If there was one person in the village who was worse than Naruto when it came to nerves at this point, it was Hinata. I can't believe it. I'm finally going on a date with Naruto. I hope he likes how I look. I hope I don't disappoint him, she began worrying. Suddenly, a knock came on her door. Hinata-sama, are you ready? Called Neji from outside the door to her room. Naruto has just arrived. I'll be out in a minute, Hinata called out. Oh my, it's time, don't faint. Please don't faint. Hinata opened the door to meet her cousin, receiving a smile from him. Neji Nisan, do il look alright. Hinata-sama, you look beautiful. Naruto is a lucky man to be spending the night with you, replied Neji, trying his best to calm his cousin's nerves. Now don't worry. I'm confident everything will go just fine. Naruto's doing everything possible and more for you to enjoy tonight. Just relax and everything will be fine. I have faith in you. Are you sure? Asked Hinata. I am. You'll be fine, replied Neji. Naruto was standing just outside the house with Hiashi standing next to him. Hiashi had just finished going over the ground rules with Naruto, including that Hinata would be home by 10:30 at the latest. Naruto's nerves were growing and then it happened. The door opened and she came outside. Naruto was left completely speechless as his attention was drawn towards Hinata. She was wearing a modest, straight-fitting dress that was white with lavender swirls making their way up the dress and a few flower petals dancing around the base of the dress that came down to just above her ankles. The sleeves were short, just extending past the shoulders. While the dress was modest, that doesn't mean it didn't show of Hinata's figure. And for a 12-year-old, she was already beginning to have a rather slamming figure. Naruto couldn't believe it. Sure, he had seen her in something besides that bulky jacket, namely a loose-fitting, plain black t-shirt that she wore for training, but he never imagined this. Hinata saw that Naruto's complete attention was on her and she began to blush. Naruto, do you like how I'll look? She asked. Hinata. Naruto struggled to find his words. You'll look. Wow. Naruto's world went black as it was not his turn to faint. Thankfully, he was caught by Hiashi, who wouldn't have him soiling his new suit with dirt. Hiyashi was doing everything in his power to ensure everything went well for Hinata and that nothing ruined the clan's image, which a dirtied suit jacket in a place such as the Flaming Leaf Inn would do. Naruto woke a few minutes later with Hinata looking down on him, smiling and blushing. She had gotten her answer when Naruto fainted. Hinata, said a slightly weary Naruto. Naruto, she replied. The two of you should get going. It's nearly 6:20 and your reservation is for 6:30. You can't be late, said Hiyashi. Naruto agreed with this and the new couple quickly found themselves at the gate being wished off by Neji, Hiyashi, and Hanabi. While they walked away, Naruto had to deal with numerous whistles and comments coming from the voice in his head that he was desperately trying to silence. While he wouldn't push it too far tonight, Kurama was still going to have some fun. Oh my, is that really Hinata? I never imagined that's what she was hiding underneath that bulky jacket of hers, commented Sakura as she and Ino looked on from their hiding place. Ino couldn't help but silently agree with Sakura as she also stared on in amazement. It was a good thing they were hooking Hinata up with Naruto as they soon realized that Hinata actually had the looks and body to compete with them in the Sasuke department. When Naruto and Hinata got out of view, the pair of kunoichi moved to their next spot until they finally came to the Flaming Leaf Inn. Unfortunately, they couldn't get inside as they didn't have a reservation, so they took their station just outside a window that gave them a nice view at the table where Naruto and Hinata were being sat. Oh come on Naruto. Whatever you do, please don't screw this up, said Sakura quietly. Sakura and Ino weren't the only ones there watching this first date unfold. At different viewing points around the restaurant, various shinobi that Naruto and Hinata knew very well took up their stations. Neji and Tenten had met up and were perched on a rooftop that gave them a view of the two. Neji didn't necessarily need a window to see through, but Tenten didn't have X-ray vision bestowed upon her by the Byakugan. Kakashi found his station and so did Kurenai. Hell, even Sasuke had come to get in some special, observational and information gathering, training. Choji was with Shikamaru at yet another vantage point. Tsunade had finally figured out how to work Hiruzen's crystal ball and Shizune, Hiyashi and Jiraiya were watching the couple from inside their office. And somehow, Haku had aligned his mirrors so that he and Zabuza would get a view at the show. In fact, the only people close to Naruto and Hinata who weren't watching were Kiba and Lee. Lee was still bedridden and didn't want to test Tsunade's patience and Kiba, well, he was still running for his life. Hopefully, however, the screams had stopped a few hours ago. This meant that he had either been eaten or he was now too exhausted to scream. As the two of them approached their table, Naruto did as he was instructed by Neji and offered Hinata her seat before sitting down himself. So far so good. He had made it the first minute without managing to do something embarrassing or idiotic so far. The first few minutes were spent in silence, with both of them too nervous to say anything to each other. The waiter came around and introduced himself in warm manner, indicating to Naruto that there would be no problems from him tonight. In fact, the entire restaurant seemed to welcome Naruto rather warmly. The owners must have said something to the staff that changed their views on the blonde Jinchuriki. The first thing he asked for was what they wanted to drink. Unfortunately, both Naruto and Hinata were only 12 so their drink options were severely limited to pretty much water. Then came the appetizers. Had it not been for that sample menu and Neji's explanation on many of the items on the menu, Naruto would have had absolutely no idea what was there. However, because of Neji's explanations, Naruto already had an idea what he was going to order. For Naruto, his appetizer was an order of pork gyoza, a type of Japanese dumpling. Hinata on the other hand went with an order of one of her favorites, zenzai, sweet red bean soup. The time until their appetizers were served again was spent in silence, both of them most likely too nervous to say anything. Just before their appetizers arrived, Naruto and Hinata were asked to order their entries. Naruto ordered a fillet of white salmon, glazed with a miso honey sauce while Hinata ordered the inn's kaiseki ryori, a seasoned assortment of vegetables and fish. Again, there was silence while the couple waited for their appetizers to arrive. Come on brat, just say something, anything, said Suant as she was observing their long and awkward silence through the crystal ball. Hey Tsunade, now that you know how to work that thing, mind teaching me someday? Asked Jiraiya. Tsunade just shot him a glare. And why would I show you when all you would do is use it to spy on the girl's bath at the hot springs? Jiraiya flinched at Tsunade's, assuming he would ever stoop to doing such a thing. Only a super pervert would think of abusing a crystal ball like that. Oh wait, he was a super pervert. Damn it, brat, if I knew this is what it took to get you to shut up, I would have had it done when we first met, swore Tsunade. The reactions around the rest of the stalkers surrounding the inn were the same. Geez Kit, come on and say something. It doesn't matter what you say, but just say something. You're looking like an even bigger idiot by just sitting there than you ever would, said Kurama, trying to give his host a little push. But I don't know what to say, argued Naruto. Wow, that's a first. Anyways, you like the way she looks, right? Asked Kurama. Naruto nodded. Then just compliment her. All you have to do is get talking and then things will get better. Naruto took a deep breath, deciding to take a dive. Hinata. Hinata looked up as Naruto caught her attention. I don't know if I told you this, but, you look very beautiful tonight. There you go, now just don't shut up again. Eep, thought Hinata. Why you do? Of course. Why would I ever think different, replied Naruto. I don't know. Just why you never said anything, said Hinata. Now Naruto knew what Kurama was talking about. Oh it's just I'm not used to this sort of thing. You know, being in a fancy restaurant, with a beautiful girl. Hinata blushed slightly, hearing Naruto compliment her. You're doing fine, so far. Said Hinata. Naruto kind of took this the wrong way. What do you mean by, so far? Questioned Naruto. Although this wasn't anything harsh as Naruto was beginning to open up and figured he'd try playing around a little. It's just that you kind of have a habit to make things well, said Hinata, playing along. Oh not you too, it's hopeless, said Naruto, putting his head down. But that's why I like you, said Hinata, perking Naruto up a little. You always find a way to brighten things up and find the positive side of even the worst times. Naruto smiled at this. Finally, I was beginning to think that Baka would actually manage to screw things up by simply not doing anything, commented Sakura. Yeah, that would be a first for even Naruto, replied Ino. Finally their food arrived and the two eventually began to share their dinner between one another. Needless to say, they probably enjoyed each other's more, or at least the fact that the other was feeding them. The main entries followed shortly after their appetizers and dessert was offered to them last. Hinata had mentioned to Naruto that this restaurant was renowned for a different type of dessert known as cheesecake. Needless to say, Naruto was still in the mood for trying something different and 2 slices of cheesecake were ordered. When they arrived, Naruto quickly snatched up Hinata's slice, actually causing her to protest a little. Apparently, when it comes to sweets, Hinata becomes much more open. Naruto would have to remember this for the future. Naruto, protested Hinata. Don't worry, you'll get it back, but piece by piece, said Naruto as he took a piece of dessert and fed a no longer complaining Hinata. Not bad Naruto, thought Jiraiya as he observed their dinner through the crystal ball. Hey Tsunade, I think the kids got this. Why don't we change the station? Perhaps something with a little more exposure. Pervert, shouted Tsunade as she sent Jiraiya flying out of the office with a strong left hook to the side of his face. Wow. I'm impressed boss didn't do anything, anything Naruto-ish yet, commented Konohamaru. Not to mention his date looks really pretty. Don't worry, Konohamaru, if it's a date you're looking for, there's another pretty Hyuga girl around your age, commented Shizune, earning a glare from Hiyashi. Somehow, Kiba had managed to survive. He didn't know necessarily how, but he had somehow managed to survive, despite Enko taking on nearly another hour to his torment simply because he wasn't screaming loud enough. Bam! Suddenly, he was knocked unconscious by a flying pervert. Could this night get any worse for him? Oh yeah, it could. He could have been forced to observe Naruto and Hinata on their date. Finally, their dinner came to an end and Naruto was presented with the check. If it hadn't been for the fact that he was expecting the size of the bill, he probably would have had a heart attack or something along those lines. The total bill turned out to be around 5,000 ryo. Remember that I am handling it as $1 equals 10 ryo. It would have been more, but for some reason the dessert was left off the bill. When Naruto asked the waiter, he was informed that first date couples receive a free dessert. Naruto, are you sure you don't want me to pay for part of the dinner? Asked Hinata, catching a glimpse at the price tag on their meal. She had initially come prepared, already knowing how expensive this place was. Naruto realized what this was. Iruka had informed Naruto of a final test when taking a girl out for dinner, and this was it. No, that's alright. Besides, you of all people should know that I've got plenty. Remember the trip to bring back Tsunade-sama? Naruto nearly let it slip. He was informed by Neji that referring to Tsunade as Bachan inside that establishment was a huge no-no. Hinata smiled. She was still a little regretful that Naruto was the one bearing the burden of paying, but she would just find some way to make up for it. Exiting the restaurant, a few of their observers had to readjust their hiding positions so they would not be seen. But thankfully, Naruto didn't notice them and Hinata had not activated her Byakugan. Had she done that, they would have been discovered instantly. It was starting to get late and the sun was beginning to set. It was then that Naruto remembered one thing he wanted to do. He grabbed Hinata and the two took off in the direction of the Hokage monument, coming to a stop on top of the Yondame's head. Naruto used to come here a lot when he was back in the academy. For some reason, he found it a good place to sit and reflect. Of course, back then he would try to contemplate what was wrong with him or why the villagers hated him. This time, he just wanted to sit with Hinata and watch the sunset. They made it just in time as the sun began to slip beyond the horizon. The evening glow, illuminating Naruto, causing Hinata to stare and bask in the warm glow that was radiating from him. To her, this was still all a dream. Back in the academy, she had always fantasized about her and Naruto actually being together, but now that it was happening, she still couldn't believe it. No matter how much everything else was telling her that this was real, to her, this was all a dream, one that she thankfully wouldn't be waking up from anytime soon. They took a seat on top of the Yondame's head and simply watched the sun set, Hinata still mesmerized by the glow radiating off of Naruto from the sunset. Naruto caught her gaze and his attention drifted to her. It was around this time that the moonlight was beginning to illuminate the coming night sky, taking the place of the sun. Like the sun with Naruto, the moon seemed to have a complementary effect with Hinata and a faint glow began to dance off of her. And then they did what just about any young couple would do in a situation like this, they kissed. Ah, was heard from all the female members of the audience that had gathered to watch the two young lovers on their first date. Thankfully for Ino, she had just enough film in her camera to snap the image of the two of them on top of the Hokage monument kissing. The men in the crowd didn't show it as much as the girls, but they were still glad that Naruto and Hinata had finally come together. Neji, are you crying? Asked Tented. No, I've just got something in my eye, replied Neji, with the typical response to said question. Inside the tower, Hiyashi had managed to keep his emotions masked like a proper Hoiga, but underneath he couldn't help but feel a mixture of happiness, hope, sadness, worry, and longing. He was happy because Hinata had finally gotten what she truly wanted. Hoping that this relationship would allow her to blossom into the shinobi that he had always hoped she would be. Sad when he realized Hinata was no longer the little girl and that she was beginning to grow up. Worry because of what the elders would do if they ever found out about this. Longing from the fact that he was the only parent alive of those two. He would give just about anything to share a moment like that again with his own wife, or sit back and have a laugh with Minato before they got beat by Kushina. It was getting late, pretty close to the 10:30 deadline that Hiyashi had put on their date. About an hour ago, Hinata had managed to fall asleep in his arms. He hated to wake her, seeing how peaceful she looked, but he knew that if he ever hoped to have a night like this again, he would have to get Hinata home on time. Don't move, he said to Hinata as she began to stir from his movement. Naruto picked her up bridal style and began to make his way to her home, hoping from rooftop to rooftop. Looking up at him, Hinata couldn't stop blushing. Where did Naruto learn to become romantic in a way? As for Naruto, spending an entire childhood without parents gets you wondering what your parents might have been like. Naruto would spend a lot of time observing younger couples, trying to get a feel for what his parents may have been like. When they stopped on top of one of the taller buildings, all it seemed like Hinata was missing was longer red hair, and this might have just as easily been a repeat scene from the previous generation. Sadly for Hinata, all good things have to come to an end as they approached the Hoiga compound. Naruto set Hinata down just out of sight so it wouldn't look like they hadn't been doing anything that Hiyashi might deem inappropriate. Hinata-sama, it's nice to see you tonight, said Ko as they met him at the gate to the compound. I hope everything went well. Hinata smiled, a blush still present on her face. Everything was wonderful. Thank you, Ko. And thank you, Naruto, for tonight. It was much more than I could ever have hoped for, she said, giving him a quick goodnight kiss. It was Naruto's turn to blush a little. Good night, Hinata-hime, he said. Hinata's blush darkened at what Naruto had just added onto her name. As Naruto finally left, Hinata finally lost it and she ended up fainting as Ko was forced to carry her into her house. Not bad, Kit. I never imagined you would actually pull it off, joked Kurama as Naruto arrived back at his apartment. Yeah, although I will say that was the best night I ever had, with the exception of the high society aspect. I could do without that, but Hinata seemed to be okay with it and it at least showed her father the better side of me, replied Naruto. I just don't want to have to go through the fancy, upscale setting anytime soon. Don't worry about that. I'm sure she won't care where you take her out to next. She would have liked it even if you just took her to get ramen. Then why didn't we just go get ramen? That would have been so much better, asked Naruto. Because of her father and where she comes from. Tonight was to show everyone that you could in fact treat her like a princess. Now that you've done that, it should be smooth sailing from here. Yeah, I hope so. I guess I didn't mind it too much, but going to a restaurant that fancy is not something I want to do every time, commented Naruto. The next morning, Hinata had somehow woke up full of energy as she left to meet with her team for their mission briefings. Last night had been just pure bliss. Despite it ending, she knew there would be more time with Naruto in the future, even if it wasn't on the same scale as last night. She could easily tell Naruto was not comfortable in that restaurant. To be honest, she wasn't comfortable either, at least not until Naruto began talking and playing with her a little. She would rather go to a ramen shop where Naruto is himself than to some fancy, upscale restaurant where Naruto spent half the night too nervous to do anything. Perhaps now that that is over, maybe we can just go on some more normal dates. Oh my, more dates with NN Naruto, eep. Thought Hinata. Nearly losing conscious from that though. After a quick breakfast, she left the house, passing Neji and her father in the courtyard. They were getting in a quick spar before Neji had to report in as well. Soon, Neji left, leaving just Hiyashi in the house as Hanabi had been taken to the academy. Hiyashi, there is something we need to discuss, said Moriko as the three Hoiga elders approached him. It was this confrontation that Hiyashi had been dreading since last night. We need to discuss the activities of your daughter. Oh. And why do you feel the need to do that? Everything with Hinata is fine, replied Hiyashi. Are you absolutely sure? From what I've seen, she's been spending some time with an undesirable person, said Harabi. This caused a vein to bulge in Hayazi's head. And who might this undesirable person you are referring to be? You know very well who we are referring to, Hiyashi. It's that demon, Naruto Uzumaki, bursted Moriko. Hiyashi, we understand that Hinata is starting to get to that age, but perhaps you should be looking for a more desirable suitor than that thing, said Iro. While your concern is admirable, I see no reason to forbid my daughter from seeing Naruto. If your sight is even half as good as a normal person, you would see that Hinata's skills have developed considerably in the past few months, and I have reason to believe that Naruto is the main reason, said Hiyashi. Now see here. That thing is nothing but trouble. His heritage is unknown and he is not desirable for this clan. I don't even understand why you let him in here to train with Hinata in the first place, argued Iro. I have my reasons. Let's just say there is something about Naruto that has caught my attention. Unfortunately, I cannot say why as I am bound by law, but rest assured that my reason is perfectly acceptable. In fact, if I were you, I would start showing Naruto a little more respect, said Hiyashi. Hiyashi. Perhaps we may have been a little hard on the boy in the past, but that still doesn't make up for what he is. He's nothing but a nuisance and a demon. If you will not distance the clan from him or prevent your daughter from seeing him, then we have no choice but to do what's best for the clan and seal her and eject her from the clan, shouted Moriko. Damn, I didn't want to have to use this card just yet, thought Hiyashi. I don't see any of you in a position to make threats right now. First, it was agreed that you would not interfere with Hinata's life until she becomes of age. Second, it has come to my attention that a particular law has been broken when the three of you told my daughter about Naruto's secret. What? How did you? Responded Moriko. I was informed by Hinata and Jiraiya-sama. Regardless of your reasons or the outcome, the three of you broke the Sandaim's law, which may I add is punishable by either life imprisonment or death, when you took it upon yourselves to inform Hinata on Naruto's condition. I strongly recommend that you drop this issue if you ever see yourselves anywhere besides a damp prison cell, said Hiyashi. You wouldn't, said Iro. I would. That law is still in effect and all I have to do is go to the Hokage. As for proof, I'm sure Inoichi would be able to find something that will convict you, and from your reactions, I'm positive he will. If you don't want to find yourselves in Ibiki's basement, I suggest you simply give up on this little ploy of yours, said Hiyashi. Very well. But if that demon does anything to dishonor this clan, it will be on your head. Also, your reason for allowing him to even associate with us had better be good. For your sake, I hope you realize sooner or later that that demon would be better off dead, scoffed Moriko as the three elders left to contemplate their next scheme to try and manipulate the clan in their favor. Sensei, please hurry with that seal. I am doing everything I can to keep them at bay, but I am afraid that I may be running out of time. Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, and Haku found themselves in the Hokage's office being assigned their latest mission. They were to escort Shibi back to the waterfall village. This was a rather simple mission. The waterfall village wasn't a significant village and didn't have many enemies. At most, Shibi had told them to expect nothing more than bandits and low genin level shinobi. Being the lone chunin on the team, Haku was assigned as team leader. The morning after Team 7 departed, Tsunade received an unexpected visit from the head of Konoha's lottery. Congratulations Tsunade-sama, it appears as if you've won our jackpot of 1 million ryo.